Welcome. The new moon is a time of new beginnings, fresh starts, and setting our intentions. And what we leave behind at the end of one cycle is what opens up the space for what we would like to draw in at the beginning of the next. So tonight we're going to be talking all about the new moon, including how it's different than the dark moon. And I'll also be sharing with you several practices and mini rituals that you can use to honor the start of this new cycle. So merry meet, welcome everybody. I'm Aislin, this is Ask Aislin, and I am here with you tonight talking all about the new moon. So if you are with me live, you can leave questions and comments in the chat, and I will be answering the questions at the end during the Q&A. And if you are watching this back later on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel Body Mind Witchcraft so you won't miss any future episodes. And of course, if you like what you hear, leave a heart or a thumbs up anywhere in the video tonight, and that just helps us get this into the feed of more people. So welcome everybody. So we are going to dive right in. I got a lot to talk about when it comes to the new moon. So let's start with, hi everybody saying hi. I see Jen is saying hi and Misty. Nice to see everybody. Okay, so let's talk about the new moon. Now, the new moon is the first day of the new lunar cycle, and that happens to be today. So I'm recording this on Wednesday, August 16th, and this is actually the new moon. Now, the energy of the new moon can be felt for several days before, though we're going to talk in a moment about how that's more dark moon energy and the difference between the dark moon and the new moon energy. But we're definitely going to be feeling that new moon energy longer than just today. Generally, we feel it for a couple days afterwards. And in fact, some people say that the waxing crescent doesn't really even begin until about day 3. We're still immersed in that new moon energy. Now, the appearance of the moon when it is new is typically 1% illumination. So you see just the very faintest sliver, and that sliver typically falls on the right side of the moon. Depending on where you're located, it can look like it's down on the bottom, but it won't look like it's on the left side, or that would be a waning crescent. Now, some use the words dark moon and new moon interchangeably, and there is a difference between them. So I wanted to take a moment to explain that difference because I do think it is very important. And one of the questions that I received for the Q&A is all about that anyway. So Jenny had asked, she said, I hear from a lot of new witches, what is the difference between the dark and the new moons? Are they the same phase but just using different names? And I hear it from a lot of people as well. And in fact, I see people saying new moon and then they'll put dark moon in parentheses. And so from an energetic standpoint and from an astrological standpoint, they aren't the same. So when people use them interchangeably, well, let me just kind of clear out the confusion about how they're different, okay? So like I said, the new moon is typically at 0.1% to 1% illumination, but the dark moon is right at 0% illumination. So when we look up at the sky, there is nothing there. Perhaps maybe a faint outline of the darkness, but you won't see any light at all. Now, the energy of the dark moon is for utilizing it to remove blockages, to create final endings, closing final chapters, closing doors. I always tell people if you have something really big to let go of, the dark moon is your best bet. So while it's true that the waning half of the cycle is good for releases of all kinds, but if you got something really big, you want to make sure that is going to be gone for good, the dark moon is your best bet. Now, what I think about is the analogy of the menstrual cycle. And so for those who don't have a menstrual cycle, I think you'll still appreciate the metaphor here. So the dark moon is like the period. So during a period, the body is releasing energy in the form of blood, but it's also releasing energy, especially if you understand the energetics through traditional Chinese medicine or some of those other systems. It's letting go of that energy, and essentially what it's doing is letting go of that so that the womb is open for the next cycle and potentially could hold life. And so that is the new moon, that space where there's now this openness, and the releasing, the period, is the dark moon. So now when we get to the new moon, we reach 1% illumination, and it really depends on who you talk to. It could be 0.1% to 1% astrologically. And there we have this space for new beginnings, for opening doors, dedications, initiations, new possibilities. So how I like to use these energies is kind of in tandem, and I do something on each of the 2 nights. So new moon, dark moon to the new moon. So the new moon to me is the setting the intentions, but the dark moon the day before is letting go of anything that's going to get in the way of those intentions. Now, what's also interesting is that the dark moon is very good for shadow work as well. So in my own shadow work and energy work membership, we meet on the dark moon. We try to do it as close to the T as we can. We did it last night and we were able to let go of some really big things. And now, hopefully, those of you who were there with me and me, I definitely feel that energy, now have this space for perhaps opening up and drawing in something new now that the cycle has begun again, and here we are at the new moon. So that is my best answer of the difference between them. So though the words are used interchangeably by some people, from an energetic and an astrological perspective, they are quite different energies, though they do overlap a little bit. But again, I like to use them in tandem. So let's talk a little bit more about the new moon, though, because that's what the whole episode is really about. So the new moon is providing us with 2 different kind of pathways. We can think of it 2 different ways. One is a 2-week period where we set an intention, and we have this 29-day cycle. So we set this intention at the beginning of the new moon, and hopefully we're doing work to kind of plan out and get prepared for the culmination or manifesting that intention at the full moon. And then after that, we usually go more internally. Perhaps we just start to see that there are things that still need to be let go. We start to prepare for them, to let go of those at the very end of the cycle. We let go of them at the dark moon, and then here comes the next new moon. And now we can create a new intention. Now that is the 2-week cycle of that new moon to full moon, where we're really kind of working on that intention and seeing how we can bring it up into manifestation. But there's also a 6-month window of opportunity that we can work on with our intention as well. And I've talked about this before, but I think it's something that isn't talked about enough. Now, what this means is, so let's use this current cycle as an example. So here we are on the new moon on 8/16, and the moon is in the sign of Leo. Now, the new moon will always be in the sign of the sun at that time. Now, 6 months from now, on the opposite side of the wheel of the year, we're going to come to a full moon in Leo, and I went ahead and looked up that date for us, and that is on January 25th of 2024. What that means is we have this 6-month window where this intention that we're setting right now on this Leo new moon has 6 months to manifest, all the way to January 25th, 2024, when we hit that full moon in Leo. So if we want to think about it in the wheel of the year, it creates a 6-month period for us to really think about, how am I going to bring this intention to fruition? Now, what that also means is if you go all the way, let's time travel into the future 6 months from now, and we're standing on January 25th, 2024, we can look back to this time, the middle of August, and we can see what was going on then, and it gives us a clue as to what may be manifesting and what may become highlighted at that January full moon 2024. So 2 different ways to think about it. We have kind of the smaller 2-week cycle and then that longer 6-month cycle. So sometimes when people come to me and they'll say, I set an intention on the new moon and it never manifested, and they're coming to me like a month later, what I usually advise them to do is really maybe be patient. It may take some more time. Perhaps you want to reset that intention on the next cycle, but also be aware some intentions take longer to produce the results. And it might be that you'll see that manifested within that 6-month cycle to the next full moon in that same sign. Now, as witches, we can use this energy of the lunar cycles both in our mundane lives and our magical lives. So I wanted to actually talk about both of those tonight and share a little bit about what's going on with me. And just so we know, I'm having trouble seeing these comments again like last week. So I got to see the first 2 from Jen and Misty, and now I am refreshing it and I don't see any. So keep putting the comments in. I can see there's 5 comments here. Keep putting them in, and hopefully by the end of this I'll be able to see them. But if not, I'll go back and answer all the questions at the end. Okay, so let's talk about the mundane. Let's start with the mundane first. So, I wanted to tell you a bit about my own story and why everything is timed the way it is right now, because I really timed this to work with the lunar cycle. So, I have been working for 9 years it's actually 10 years. I take that back, 10 years in a job. I'm a contractor as an educational therapist, and I do tutoring with students who have learning differences. And so over these 9 years, there's a whole string of things that have happened, but I haven't received a raise. I get paid very late, sometimes close to 3 months after I've actually provided the services to the students, and it's become very clear to me. And not only that, I'm making very small amount of money compared to what is actually these parents are actually being billed. So I made this decision that I was going to leave this job. Now, it took me several dark moon cycles where I let go of a lot of things like my fears and my feelings of maybe not being worthy of doing this on my own. And I let go of all of that. And I finally, during this cycle, was able to set an intention last new moon that this is going to be the cycle that I was going to make a big change. So when it came to actually turning in that resignation letter and letting them know that I'm no longer going to be there, I timed it very precisely to this moment. So in fact, when I get off of here, I'm hitting send and I'm sending that letter. I wanted to do this on the new moon because this affords me the opportunity, the most energy, most what would be the word? Auspicious time, right, to start over. And so last night at the dark moon, I really was able to release a lot last night. I wrote a letter to the person who employs me and said all the things I'm not going to be able to say to her. I have to keep it very professional in the resignation letter, but I was able to write that all down and I burned that. And then I wrote down all the things I was afraid about and I let go of those and I burned that as well. And so it was very calculated the way that I timed the timing of this resignation. And so I had other people who were saying, just do it, rip the bandage off, just do it. But I kept saying, well, we're not in the right part of the cycle. I just really, as a witch, I really want to utilize this energy the best I can. And I think that if we can do that in our mundane lives, it can help bolster those intentions and those the projects that we have and our endeavors. It can really bolster it if we're really looking at that energy and trying to time the events in our lives the best we can. We can't time everything, but time some of those events according to this lunar cycle. So that is a little story of my own, how I kind of worked with this in my mundane life. Now, those of you who have businesses, I think timing your launches, things that you're selling, and campaigns that you're doing, timing those to different parts of the lunar cycle can be really important and can really actually help bolster a business. Now, energetically, we also tend to feel more depleted of energy. We may feel kind of worn down or drained during the dark moon. And so I always tell people to really honor that. I personally feel that there should be a more of an ability in our society to take more time off. You don't shouldn't have to wait until you're really sick to get a day off. You should just be able to say I'm drained and I energetically I just can't do the work today and I need a day for me. So I hope that more and more places start to do that. But the dark moon is a perfect time to do that, especially if you feel that you get really drained energetically. And if there's an option for you to take that day off, I say, you will feel so much better if you do that. So it's really important to listen to your body, and it may mean that you need to rest more right now around that dark moon, new moon. And two, what I should say is that as we transition from the dark moon energy into the new moon energy, they overlap. So there's still time here. So while we're at the new moon, you can absolutely release something here and then follow that up with setting the intention. But what it means is even here in the new moon, and maybe even tomorrow, people still feel that residual effect of the end of the cycle and the beginning of the new one. And so they may be feeling tired for a couple of days, like they need to seek solitude. You might find that you need to lean more into your self-care. So whatever that means, whatever you do to take care of yourself, you may need that more right now. So really listening to your body and what it needs is so important, especially right at the dark moon, new moon transition. Now, it's a good time to release bad habits. I really like to kind of release things at the dark moon, but you can do that today as well. And the new moon is especially good for implementing more positive habits. So bringing in things, setting an intention, saying, I'm going to move more this cycle, or I'm going to, take my vitamins, not forget to take my vitamins this cycle, or whatever it is that you want to do, that you want to bring in that would be better for you physically. Now, magically, there are also a lot of things that we can do. So I wanted to give you some little bite-sized things you can add to rituals. You can string a few of these together and create your own ritual to honor the new moon. And just remember too, it doesn't have to be done today. It can be done tomorrow or the next day. You have a space of a couple days to utilize this energy. So the first thing, I've been talking about this a lot, but the first thing is set an intention for this cycle. So what do you want to work on this month? What's the theme going to be for this month? Some people like to set that depending on the phase that the moon is in. So right now we are in Leo, the new moon is in Leo, and so is the sun. And so you could set an intention to bolster your courage, strengthen your courage, working with the solar plexus to kind of to increase your self-esteem, your self-belief. A lot of us, I know from talking to people in this group, there's a lot of people who have very great magical gifts and abilities, and yet so many of us get stuck in that feeling like imposters or doubting ourselves. Did that really happen, or did I make that up? So this is a good time on the Leo new moon. This would be a good time for you to set an intention that this cycle, I'm going to believe in myself more. And in fact, I'm going to believe in myself until someone proves me wrong, because most of the time they're not going to. And you're going to start to feel that that is going to increase your self-esteem and your self-belief. So setting an intention, what will your theme be? If you don't know a lot about the astrological phases of the moon, go ahead and Google Leo new moon and see what kind of intentions come up for that. But I have the feeling that many of you have intentions that you'd like to set. So this is the time to do it right now. You know what you need most in your life. So another thing that I like to do on the new moon is I dedicate a new candle. I actually do 2 candles, but you could just do one. And I have 2 candles that are for 2 separate intentions. And I dedicate them on the new moon to that intention. So just trying to draw in that intention. These are big workings. And so what I do is I burn those candles a little bit each night until finally on the dark moon, I burn them, let them burn all the way down. And then I light a new one on the new moon the next day. And then that starts the cycle over. So I love this because magically it's helping me. There's always energy going out towards my intentions, but it's also just a neat way to track the cycle. So I keep them back here on the altar. And so, as the cycle progresses, the candle gets lower and lower and lower. And it just helps you kind of keep in that magical lifestyle and just having that always in your consciousness. I like to use the big prayer candles. They're called prayer candles out here. They might be called them something else somewhere else. But you can generally get those at an apothecary, a botanica, a witchy or new age store. I'm lucky they just sell them here at CVS. There's a lot of people in the neighborhood who buy these candles. So that is something to, start your new candle at the start of every lunar cycle. So another thing that you can do on the new moon, and again, you could do all of these things, you can kind of string them all together into a little ritual of your own, or a larger ritual, I guess I should say, is cleansing and purification. So kind of think about, well, what needs to be cleansed and purified? Do you want to cleanse and purify yourself? Do you want to cleanse and purify your space? So you got some tools that you want to cleanse and purify? Maybe you got a new tool, or I'm purifying right now a necklace that was given to me from a toxic person. In fact, it's the employer that I'm severing ties with, but I wanted to cleanse this necklace first, and so I put it in a bowl of salt. So lots of options we have for cleansing and purifying. One thing you can do is simply take a cleansing and purifying bath or shower, and you can use different herbs and oils in the bath. that you like a lot. Lavender is a very good one for purification, sandalwood. But I recommend people just use the one that they feel drawn to and just relax in that bath and maybe even set some intentions while you're in there. If you don't have a bathtub, I don't have one in this house, but you can also do this in the shower. People like to take a little, you can take a little cheesecloth, if you can find that, and put some dried herbs in the cheesecloth, and then you can hang that right at the shower head. And it can create a nice ambience in the shower, and you'll be able to experience those herbs as well that way if you don't have a bath where you can put them in. So that is one way to purify the body, and it will also help purify your mind and spirit as well. You can also ritually sweep your living space. So that is a really great thing to do at the start of any cycle, is just kind of go around the periphery of your space. So you can go around the perimeter of the rooms, and it's kind of up to you. If you feel that there's a lot of negative energy in the space that you want to get out, you can always sweep diasil or, widdershins, or counterclockwise. And so some people like to actually go around the house or the room, and they will go counterclockwise, and they'll just let go of any of that negative energy that's in the space. And then they'll follow that up by then sweeping clockwise or diasil. And then now it's bringing in positive energy. So you can use those in tandem, kind of the way we use the dark moon energy in tandem with the new moon energy. So you can sweep a room, you can sweep the whole house. Some people like to sprinkle salt. Some people like to burn incense. So there's also like very good incense that you could take around the perimeter as well to clear out the energy. So some really good ones that you can use would be sage. Now, champa is one that for many people, it brings them into this space of kind of peace and clarity. So very good incense. Jasmine, and then like I mentioned with the bath, you can use sandalwood, very purifying, and also lavender. And I personally like patchouli, some people don't, but that's also a pretty good purifying and cleansing incense that you can use. The other thing you can do is open up the windows, let some fresh air in. Now I know it is really hot, so it's like 102 here, so I don't think we're opening up the windows today. But on new moons where there is some fresh air coming through, or if you're in a place where it's kind of cool there tonight, go open up your windows and just let some new energy into the house. That can be really nice. Now, there is a really nice spell that a lot of people use. Many people will use it on the first of the month, but it can also be used on the new moon as well. And so this is a spell for prosperity. You may have seen this going around in other groups and on pages. And essentially you take some cinnamon and you blow it in from the outside into your house. And you could say a little incantation, just drawing in abundance and prosperity into this house. So many people do that on the first of the month, but it also works very well on the new moon. So that's a nice little spell for prosperity. You can do initiations and dedications. Great time on the new moon for these. So in our own coven, when we initiate, or when we dedicate people first and then we initiate them, we generally do that. I try to always time these on the new moon, and even better if I can get a new moon at Imbolc. That is even better in my book. But any new moon is great for initiation. So if you are solitary, you can also do this. You can dedicate or initiate yourself onto a path. You can dedicate yourself to a deity. So let's say there's a new deity that you want to work with. You can make a dedication to that deity on the new moon. Great time to kind of invite that energy in and just tell them, look, I want to work with you. Now, another thing you can do is, borders a little on the mundane, but I think this can be used in magical practice as well, is making vision boards. I think it gets overused sometimes, but there is a lot of magic in this. We've done them in our own coven before, and it's really great just cutting up magazines and pictures, printing out pictures on the internet. You can write on them, just creating a space, a board of your intention. And you can then take that into the circle with you, and you can create some sacred space, and you can dedicate that, right? You can charge that and dedicate that energy as sort of a symbolic way to show your intention. Another thing that you can do is do readings for the new cycle. It's really great to do a spread to just see what's the energy of the new cycle going to be. Now you can pull one card, or you could pull 3 cards, or you could do a full Celtic cross if you want. And you can use your oracle cards or your tarot cards or any type of reading, pendulums, runes, whatever you use. But I think the new moon is like perfect time. I personally draw a card every day, but on the new and the full moon, I like to do more extensive readings just to see where is the energy at right now. Another thing that you can do is to make dark and then new moon water. So we talk a lot about full moon water. So this is where we would put a jar or a bowl of water out under the full moon. We would remove that before the sun came up because we don't want to mix the solar energy with the lunar energy. And then this is water that you can um, store for later. And if you need to bring in energy, let's say you need to bring in like full moon energy for manifestation, but it's during the waning moon, you can then use that water to kind of offset the fact that you're doing a spell in maybe not the most optimal time of the cycle. But a lot of people simply use the full moon water to bless things, tools, new jewelry, um, different, even like a letter that you were writing, you could bless with that moon water. So you don't have to just wait for the full moon to make moon water, though. I like to have water for all the different phases, and then we can bring in more of that energy during that time. So you can set out water the night before the new moon. That was yesterday. So if you're going to do that, you'd have to wait until next cycle, and then you would get water for the dark moon, and then set it out during the new moon. And now we have water for the new moon, and then I would label it, I would put the date on it, and then you can use it, any way you want. But now you have water for all of the different parts of the lunar cycle. Another thing you can do is make a charm bag or a sachet, again, to kind of make a symbolic representation of your intention. And it's really endless what you could do with these. You can put various herbs that are connected to your intention. You can put stones in there. You can put oils. People can make sigils, so you can make a sigil. And for those who don't know how to make a sigil, usually what you do is you write an intention. And it's best if we keep this in the positive and we keep it in the present tense. So you might say, let's say we're trying to draw in abundance. So I am abundant. We could just keep it very, very simple. And then from there, what you would do is you would cross out all of the vowels and all of the duplicated letters. So repeated letters like in I am abundant. Do we have any repeated letters there? I don't think we have any repeated ones there, other than the vowels. But anyway, you cross off any letters that repeat, and then you would cross off all the vowels, and you're going to be left with just a few letters. And then from there, you rearrange those letters into a shape or a symbol of some kind. The idea is that once it's done, no one would be able to look at it and say, oh, that says I am abundant. And then from there, you can choose what you want to do with it. Some people burn those to release them, but other people like to put them in a sachet, for example. So you could put some herbs in the sachet, just get a piece of cloth, put your herbs in there, maybe a stone that matches your intention, and then put your sigil in there as well, and then you'll just fold it up, and then I like to tie it up with a little ribbon, and you can carry it with you, you can hang it above a door. A lot of different options, but very simple magic that can be used at the full moon as well, but really good for setting intentions at the new moon. So those are some ideas for kind of taking advantage of this new moon energy. And like I said, this energy is with us, not just on that one day. It's really, we're still going to feel it tomorrow. We really don't start to feel the waxing crescent until about day 3 of the cycle. So we're not going to feel that till about Friday and into the weekend. So a lot of time to take advantage of this. All right, so sadly, I cannot see, I know there's 9 comments here. I don't know what is going on with Facebook and why I can't see these comments anymore. I'm going to read, I have another question that was sent to me that I want to answer now, and then I'm hoping if I expand the comment section, maybe I'll be able to see these because I want to answer any questions that might be here. So Tara sent me a great question. I know that a lot of people ask me about working with deities. So she said, how can I start working with goddesses? Which one should I start with? Okay, so it's a great question, and there's a lot of different answers to this. So I'm just going to give you some different options. So one thing that you can do is you can look at your ancestry. So where are you from? Where's your family from? And you can begin to explore the deities that are worshipped or were worshipped by your ancestors. So for me, I am mostly Irish and English. And so looking at the deities of the British Isles, the Celtic deities, would be what I would do if I was looking at deities ancestrally. Now, the reality is that many witches, I would say probably the vast majority of witches, and in fact, in the general population, I think this percentage is quite high today. Many people believe in reincarnation. And so for those who believe in it, you know, we generally believe that we were reincarnated into different cultures through those different incarnations. And so talking to the witches that I know, they have told me about lives that they spent in other parts of the world. Having my own past life regressions done and doing that kind of work myself, I know of several past lives that were not in this culture. So, so where I'm going with this is that you may feel drawn to a specific deity that perhaps you worked with or worshipped in a previous life. And so outside of the ancestry, something that you can look at is think about just what myths are you interested in. So it's very common in the United States for people to really like the Greek myths. Part of that has to do with the fact those were the ones that were taught to us in school. And I know that as a teacher myself now, I know that the kids are getting a much wider education. They're being taught about other cultures in a way that we probably weren't back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s. So it's very common for many witches who are around, you know, late 30s, early 40s, into their 50s to really resonate with the Greek deities. And a lot of that has to do with those were the stories we learned growing up. So I was one of them as well. So I explored the Greek myths first. So if you're into those myths, explore them, see what deities are there. But there may be other pantheons, other stories. Perhaps you are drawn to the stories of India. Perhaps you are drawn to the stories of Egypt. I feel that when people resonate with certain places, it has a lot to do. It's a good indication that there was a past life that you experienced there. So that is one thing to do, is explore your favorite myths. From there, learn as much as you can about those gods and the goddesses and see if there's one that is speaking to you or that you feel an affinity towards, and then you could reach out to that deity. The other thing that you can do is think about your intentions. So with your intentions, it could be anything. Who knows what a person is setting an intention for, right? So you could, let's say you have an intention for love. You want to find love. And so you would begin to explore the deities of love. So a natural one to go to would be Venus and Aphrodite, or you might explore Freya. Lakshmi is often considered a deity of love. She's also a deity of fertility. And so you might begin to explore those deities that fall under that archetypal energy. And if your intention was something different, perhaps your intention is protecting of your home. So you would begin to look at the goddesses of the hearth and the home. And then you would explore those different archetypes and see if one of them, well, the archetype is goddess of the hearth and home, but you would start to explore the deities that fall underneath that umbrella and see if one or more of them speaks to you, calls to you, or resonates with you. The other thing you can do is let them choose you. And I'm about to tell you how all of these played out for me in a moment, just to give you some examples, because this is a very topic that I've always been very passionate about. But some deities will actually choose you. So let me give you an example of all of this. So ancestrally, like I mentioned, I am British and Irish in my ancestry. And so one of the deities that I work with is Epona. She's a Celtic goddess who was actually adopted by the Romans, one of the few that was really adopted in her full state and not changed into something else. And she herself, the way she came to me was whispered in my ear during a meditation. So I was very, very unexpected. I didn't even know who she was at the time. And once that happened to me, I began to explore her. And I decided that it was time to work with her. So I've talked to some of my, to other people, you know, who've circled with me and taken some of my classes. And they've told similar stories where there might be synchronicities that are happening all the time around them that are kind of pointing towards that deity. Or it could be synchronicities with an animal that is connected to a deity. So for example, crows might connect you to the Morrigan if you're seeing those a lot. Some people connect that to Odin as well, though he was really, his pair were ravens, but people connect the crows to Odin as well. So there's different deities. You know, if you were being visited by a deer, you were seeing them all the time and you felt there was some connection there, that might be Artemis. So exploring those synchronicities can be the way that the deities talk to us. So it's very important for us to be as open and receptive as we can be. That can even be an intention that you set at the new moon for me to be as open and receptive as I can, so I can hear the voice of deity. So another thing is the intentions. So I've worked with the intention of fertility for many years, and so I've worked with fertility goddesses because of that. Lakshmi is a patron of mine now because of that. Um, I've worked with Yemaya. So your intention can kind of set the deities you work with. When I was much younger, my intention was love, exploring love, and so I worked with Aphrodite and Venus, both of those forms. Um, and so those are just kind of different ways that we can explore deity. So there's a lot of different options. And once that so when you asked which one should I start working with, it's really going to be up to you. And I would just see if there's anything in those categories that sort of resonate with you. Ancestry, maybe look at your ancestry. Think about your favorite stories and myths. Is anybody whispering to you? Are you receiving synchronicities that might be tied to a deity? Or simply, do you have an intention? And that can help you find that deity. And then once you find one that you want to work with, I recommend just setting up a small altar, or you can just clear some space on top of a bookshelf and you can set a little offering to them. Many deities you can explore. You can Google this and see if you can find what kinds of offerings that particular deity likes. There's a lot of information out there about that. But just using your intuition, and sometimes just a simple offering of milk or honey or a rose or something like that can be a beautiful offering to any deity. So I hope that helps. There is a whole episode I did a few months ago all on deity, and I'm going to drop that in the comments right afterwards. And you can check that out, Tara, if you haven't already seen it, and anybody else who wants to can watch that episode as well. Okay, so those are the questions I've got. 12 comments here, can't see them. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to try to expand the comments and see if that helps. And now I can see them. Okay, got them. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go down and see what I've missed here. Hi, everybody. I see people saying hi. Hi, Melinda and Cindy and Misty, Jenny. Tanessa, hi everybody. Okay, so Tanessa said, I'm experiencing a new thing lately. When I go to bed, I feel myself vibrate for a few minutes. It's not scary, it's calming, just wondering why. Okay, good question. Okay, so I'm going to give my best answer to this one, though I'm not sure for sure. So that has happened to me before, but a lot of times when that happens, it's because I had a lot of energy in my body before I went to sleep. Now, I run a business and I work full time up until today when I'm resigning from that job. But uh, sometimes I work very late on the computer and I'm just in my head. And so when I finally go to bed, there's kind of this vibrating and shaking in my body. And I attribute that to a lot of charged energy that's in my body that I've not been able to let go of. Now, for me, I don't know that it feels, I don't think it feels bad. I don't know that it feels good. If I really wanted to get rid of it, it would probably suit me best to ground before I lay down when I notice that I'm feeling that way. That can be as simple as just like laying down on a yoga mat, put your forehead down on the mat. A lot of grounding methods, put some salt on the tongue, something to just ground you down. But since you said that it doesn't really bother you. Oh, this is Misty saying this. Misty, okay. Yeah, so you said it doesn't really. Oh, is this, now I lost what I'm even reading here. Oh, you both are kind of saying a similar question. So Misty said she's feeling the buzzing in her body, and then Tanessa feels it when she's going to sleep. Yeah, so if you feel that it's not a problem, it could just be a lot of energy in your body. And if you don't feel it's a problem, then you don't really have to worry about it. But if you've noticed, especially for Tanessa when she's trying to go to sleep, if you're noticing that it's keeping you from getting a good night's sleep, or perhaps you are waking up a lot or something like that, if you notice that kind of stuff, then I would consider grounding beforehand. But I also will mention that there's a lot of energy going on right now. I've noticed this from a lot of people. Like, I'm making a huge change in my life, and a lot of people I know are making big, big decisions. So I think astrologically there's a lot going on. Chiron is in retrograde, Saturn's in retrograde, Venus is in retrograde, Mercury's about to go into retrograde, and there's nothing scary about any of this, but it just means we're doing a lot of work right now. And there's a lot of opportunity to go inward and do a lot of this hard work that actually will progress us spiritually. So it could be why people are experiencing these vibrations. Now, Tanessa said it's calming. It could just be that you really enjoy feeling that energy. So I wouldn't worry about it, but it's just probably an excess of energy in the body. Now, Misty, I know that you've been having a lot of things opening up for you with some of your spiritual gifts. So it could be that's what your buzzing in your body is as well. I've noticed that when that happens for me. So again, if it's not bothering you, I wouldn't worry too much about it, but you might want to consider grounding a little bit if it feels like it's keeping you awake or it's not allowing you to have a good night's sleep. Okay, Melinda said, how long can we store the new moon or dark moon water? As long as you want. I don't think there's an expiration date on them. I would put the date, like I said, I put the date on it just so I know when I collected it. But I would say when it's done, and then you would make some new water. But I don't think there's an expiration date on that. Jamie said she's finally catching the live. Cool. Hi, Jamie. Glad you made it. Yeah. Okay. Misty said she has 4% Irish, over 70% Scottish, and my closest Viking ancestry is Scandinavian. I also have family members that were Anglo-Saxon, and other reasons why I wanted to look into Norse. Yeah, I know you've been interested in the Norse deities for a while. So I definitely recommend looking into them, especially with your ancestry. So I think it's a good place to start. And then Melinda said, how does a deity become a patron? Okay, so a deity becomes a patron when you begin to work more with that deity. So there's deities that we work with. So let's just give an example. So in our Shadow Seekers ritual for our membership last night, we worked with the Morrigan. So some people in that ritual may go on and they may find that she speaks to them. She's continuing to speak to them, and they may choose to work with her more. And over time, she can become a patron because of that, because we're giving offerings, we're honoring her, regularly. That's generally how the deity will become a patron. There's other deities that will be one-offs, like that ritual that we did. So some of the people who went to that ritual may never work with the Morrigan again, or may work with her at a future dark moon when she comes up as, as the deity that's being honored. In that case, it's fine to honor deities just once in a while. But your patrons generally are the ones, like if you think about it from a monotheistic perspective, and many people here once were Christian before they left the church. So think of it kind of that way. It's like when you prayed to Jesus every night, or you prayed to God in church. Your patron is that kind of deity. It's like it literally comes from like father, mother, matron, and patron is where it comes from. So these are like your closer deities. So when I refer to deities as patrons of my own, it's because I have worked with them over time. I have Ganesha and Lakshmi represented on an altar just for them all the time. They've been there for years and years. They were at the old house too. We have Kuan Yin on another altar because she's my future baby's patron. So it is, that's generally how the deity becomes a patron, is when you work with them more. But Melinda, you're in the Demystifying Witchcraft class, and tomorrow night is all about deities. So you're in for a big class, and we're going to talk all about them, how they become patrons, and then how we honor them. All right. Any other questions? I'm so happy I could see these comments finally. But I don't want to leave without answering anybody. So I'm just going to kind of wrap it up. I'll tell you what's coming up next, and then that gives people a little bit of time to put in any extra questions that they want to leave here. So next week, I'm going to be talking about types of witches. So this has been a question that I get asked a lot, is how do I know what kind of a witch I am? So people kind of know my general answer. Honestly, I don't know what kind of witch I am. I'm a witch. I've been a witch since I discovered, probably all my life, but really discovered it when I was 18 or 19 and officially became one then. But I don't know. I think, back when I was first starting out in the 90s, I don't remember there being a lot of talk about the different kinds of witches, but it's become a hot topic today, and so I want to talk about it. So we're just going to go through the different kinds of witches that people could be, And so that's our next live next Wednesday, types of witches. And then after that, I have a very special edition of Ask Aislin coming on, I believe it's the 30th. Yes, on the 30th. So instead of going live here on Facebook, I am going to be doing a special workshop on shadow work and energy work, in particular, how we can use the chakras to further our shadow work. And when that workshop is over, our Shadow Seekers membership will officially be open for the next 7 or 8 days to take in our new round of members. So look forward to seeing an invitation to that workshop. You'll be able to sign up for it, and you'll get the Zoom link, and you'll be able to come join us live. And if you can't come live, you can watch the replay later. But it's an all brand new workshop that I haven't done before. So that's exciting. And then after that, we're going to open up, and we have a limited number of spots like last time, but we're looking forward to taking in some new members. And then we are about to celebrate our 1 year anniversary in Shadow Seekers, and we're going to celebrate that with a little party online, a little mixer. And so for those who are joining us new, they'll be able to come to and meet everybody. So a lot of great things coming. And then we're moving into September. So I don't see any other questions here. So I'm going to sign off for the night. I'm going to go send my resignation letter and breathe a sigh of relief. So happy new moon to everyone. And until next time, blessed be.